Hey Ian, you ready?
You bet I am. What are we talking about tonight? And talk about guns?
If it's not a 30 cal, I'm not in.
Jeez, mate, that's not very inclusive. Have you seen Jono?
Hey Jono, you ready?
Well, God knows where he is, mate. He's probably caught up in the neighbour's wire again. You ready to go? Let's do this.
Mate, I'm ready. Let's crank it up.
Righto then. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the Hunters Campfire, where we're going to talk about all things hunting and the great outdoors. And we'll probably throw in a few tips along the way.
You want a tip? Say it once, say it 1,000 times. Goats love rocks.
Or a few things about deer. Mark, what do you reckon about deer?
As a deer hunter, I love hunting pigs.
Well, that's about as useful as I expected it to be. Oh, check it out. Here comes Jono. He's being chased by the neighbour's dog.
Okay guys, let's get this started. Welcome to the Hunters Campfire. Pull up a chair, get comfortable. It's time for the Hunters Campfire.
That pause.
That pause.
Oh.
That's right. That pause.
You still paused.
That's
Oh,
right.
wow,
It's
everyone
really
turned
weird.
to blur.
Well, good evening, gents. How are you all today?
Hello, Jono.
I'm very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
That's very good. I'm
It's a
glad.
different night for us this week. It's a Thursday night.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. And
Technical
you've
problem.
actually just blown a post I did today.
Right.
So I was going to talk about how today was the 150 year of the Creedmoor event, but that's actually the 22nd, which is a Wednesday. So you just blown that.
Well, I'm sorry, mate. I
Oh,
wasn't
no.
aware of that.
Ah, damn it. But anyway, so
You
yes.
can start again if you want.
No, well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But yes, today, for those who like to, ear bash people who own Creedmoor, the white Creedmoor is all about. It's actually 150 years ago, yesterday, as in Wednesday, the 22nd of November, which was a competition at a farm, which was the Creedmoor farm, a rifle competition. So where that
There you go.
name comes from. And that's
There you go.
posted up on our Facebook page, the research document about it. The Irish team challenged the US team to a shooting competition. And it was held, and that's where where that term comes from. That's the history of it, and that happened 150 years ago yesterday.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see you both read that post.
Mate, I can't keep up with all the so many posts.
Yeah,
so
I know.
many posts.
It's okay though. It's entertaining, especially Mark driving home from the Pilliga.
Yeah,
Oh,
Did
hilarious.
enjoy that.
Man.
That got a good belly laugh. That did.
I just want to know how they load that thing to start with. How do you
Oh, that's-
get it there?
If you don't know what we're talking about, go and check out the Facebook page.
Yeah,
A couple of ridiculous posts went up.
it's one of
today,
those people.
The 23rd of November.
It's just how do you? That's what when I see these things, I go, how do you start? How do you get there? How do you kind of go? Okay, I'm going to load this ute, and what we're going to do is we're going to load this ute to the point where we crush it, and then we're going to have to figure out how to move it. It's just man, yep. I was amazed by it. So there we go.
Pretty
So
cool.
this is what number 76 because
76, yes.
the previous podcast is 75, which is Diamond Jubilee. I was actually going to use the picture of the Queen as the image rather than the 75, but I thought some people might find that offensive.
I think that might be a little bit offensive.
Yeah, well, it is actually the Queen. Was that it was one of the recognised. But anyway, so 75. So the next step is 100, guys. So we've got to get to those triple figures.
Looking forward to that.
Man.
That's going to be a celebration. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So for this evening, for those listening, we're going to have a show and tell. So we're going to have to be very descriptive in what we're doing show and tell. but we'll also have the YouTube version of this up, so you can actually see the video as well. And the show and tell is rifles, which, Jono, can you explain to Ian what a rifle is?
Oh, please. Please. I had to laugh, actually, since you're calling me out as being the technical gumboot of the team. From a gun and rifle point of view. We had someone contact us today about scopes and said, I'd really value Jono and Mark's opinion on this. And I don't know if I should have been offended or not. But anyway, I sent them your direction.
Yeah, when I read that was pretty funny. That was hilarious. And
about my opinion. What was your name? What's his name?
Jack.
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 Thank you, Jack. Thank you,
Jack.
Jack.
Here, man. Yeah, Jack knows his stuff. He knows where
He
to
does.
go.
He's a
right?
very
What?
solid supporter of this podcast.
And if
Clearly-
you want
clearly-
information, you know where to ask, you know? If
Righto.
he was, for instance, if he wanted to know about, what's the best lamp luminance to use while spotlighting, he knows where to ask.
Well, that's definitely one to direct at Ian. That one.
Not quite sure I could even answer that question, fellas.
If you want to know which brand of wire cutters are best for barbed wire fences.
I've got your answer for that one. That's for sure.
So Jack, glad we can help. And my recommendation is Swaro, the Z5i.
So I'm going to challenge that one a little bit.
Of course you can. That's the idea.
Yeah. So I am a huge fan of Swarovski. I have owned several Swarovskis. I still have a pair of Swarovski binoculars, which are amazing. My good friend Austin, who is a professional deer culler in the UK, shoots 300-400 deer a year, got me onto Swarovski, and he is now a Carl's convert. He says they are by far and away the best optics you can get. They blow Swarovski out the water. I have never owned a pair. I've never used a set of Carl's before, so I'm going on his feedback, but I really, really value his experience. He's a professional deer culler, and he says you can't get better than Carl's. They're certainly way out of my budget, but I think if I had the money, I would probably try the Carl's.
Ultimately, the reason I recommend the Swaro is Jack mentioned about weight, and the Z5 is designed as a lightweight scope. So he wanted something that was also lightweight. I recommended that he look at Steiner, but he said no. He said weight was the issue, and I said, well, that's true because Steiner are generally a heavier glass. So if he wants lightweight, I thought the Z5 was the pick of the two there when you considered weight as well.
But I was going to say, I think if you're looking at quality optics, you can't go wrong with European. That's
we are kind of arm wrestling a little bit over quality. The other thing is too, I suggested you go a different magnification though. The Z5 has a I think it's a 2-4x12, because I don't think you really need 18 in a hunting rifle.
Well, he said he wanted something for long range.
Yeah, but I think 12 is plenty for long range if you're shooting a deer. If I was shooting, a target, maybe not. But if I'm shooting a deer, that's, with a 308, 12 will give you
I think you've got a point there.
Good, a 308. So thinking about ballistics, thinking about the size of the target, and thinking about the situation you're in, I think a 12 will get you pretty well right for and the thing is too.
What conditions are you talking about? You're talking about open farm grazing country or in the bush?
I'm talking distance. So if the target was a long way away, as in it was 300, 400 plus, I think a 12 is still adequate for a deer-sized target. And I also think that the good thing I liked about the 12 is it goes down to a 2.4, which means that in those cases where you're in, you're looking for sambar and you're right on top of them, you can get down low as well. And that's that 2 to 5 by 10, which is very common now, but that's Swarovski actually had a 2 to 4 by 12. I think that is a pretty sweet hunting range. That is, that's, and again, if you're shooting targets, that's a different thing, where, there's 5 to 25s and stuff like that. But if I'm shooting in a hunting and considering what the kind of hunting you're going to do, and so sometimes you might have long range, but sometimes you might be right in the scrub. So you need to be able to wind down.
That I agree. Yeah, I think if you're not scrub hunting, then you can afford to go bigger zoom, but you don't want to sacrifice the low power. If you're going to be walking into the bush, most
definitely. And I actually think that to be honest, the better you get, generally the closer you get to them before, you get on top of them. And I reckon that was a mistake I made for the territory. I loaded ammo for 200 yards. And,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Those things weren't 200 yards away.
Well, I think that's a trap for young players. In general, you go and get your first deer rifle and you think you need a telescope that goes on the top.
Yeah.
You end up buying probably a cheaper product to get more zoom. Clarity's not that good. And then you sacrifice the low power because everyone wants to be a sniper. Like it's how it is when you're young and you're buying your first rifle and you want to start this game. I fell into that trap.
Yeah, well, but the funny thing is, if you you want to be a sniper now, you have a 25 power, but if you want to be a sniper in World War II, you have a 4 power.
Interesting. Eh?
And they're little tiny skinny tubes and you're a sniper.
We didn't have a lot of choice, mate. I reckon if you gave them
that's
one...
the thing, but the thing is, if you think about it, that's a sniper using a rifle that shoots about 5 MOA and worked. So, it does the job. So, yeah. But I hunted for years with, the 1 to 6s and the 1 to 5s. And I thought, and I shot game up to 300 yards because I don't usually like to shoot beyond 300 yards. And the reason for that is because if I don't bang flop them, the space that they can move by the time it takes me to get up to them is considerable. So I never try to shoot over 300 yards, and I was comfortably able to sight a target with a Swaro 1 to 6 at 300 yards.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for me, growing up,
we are shooting big animals. We're not shooting cans. We're shooting a big thing.
Yeah, for me growing up, the most common scope was a 3 to 9 by 40.
Yeah,
that's
right.
had.
Well, that was it. That was a hunting scope, 3 to 9 by 40. And then they got a bit excited and they started making them in 42s.
Yeah, just to be different.
That's right. Massive increase of 2 mil in the land. Woo-hoo. 3 by 9 but and there was those 2 to 8 by 33s. They were cool, hunting scopes. They were generally lower profile, smaller. Yep. So who's starting?
Well,
should we do?
I know we're talking about rifles, not guns, and I don't need to understand the difference between the two. Thank you very much. This is not just a gun porn episode. This is a story behind this.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? So before we jump in, I actually want to say something about our audience, in that looking at our demographics, we've got a number of listeners from the United States and Canada and New Zealand and other places too. So if you're listening to us and if you're from the United States, you're from Canada or you're from or New Zealand or any kind of combination of the three, we're not going to hold that against you. Why don't you reach out and say hello and tell us who you are and what kind of hunting you do? We'd love to hear from you. There we go.
Good.
And actually, anyway, let's expand it. If you don't live in Australia,
Yeah,
because I'm looking at it, we got Slovakia, Bulgaria, Denmark, France, United Kingdom, Ireland, India, Indonesia, Cook Islands. I had some good mates lived on the Cook Islands. If you're on the Cook Islands, give us a yell. There you go. So if you're listening to us overseas, i.e. not in Australia, give us a yell. Love to hear from you. Okay.
Right.
So
Gun porn time.
So the idea is, what rifles do you have for what situation? So we're going to explain those rifles. So you've got 2, Jono. I've got 3, and Ian's got about a dozen, I think.
He's got a whole battery behind him by the looks of things.
That's it.
There's only 5.
5. Okay.
And a shotgun.
So the rest of them.
So should we do like rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first?
You know. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Let's do it. So it's rock, paper, scissors. So it's
So we
1,
have
2,
delays.
3, show. Okay.
1, 2, 3, show. Okay. Just for Jono's team steal or
Yeah,
tie.
let's see if I can make up for a team tie. Yeah.
2.
1, 2, 3, show. Scissors. Okay, here we go again. Okay, I'm sure. Okay, we got this. 1, 2, 3.
Jono's paused.
Paper.
Scissors. You're gone.
Okay,
Rock.
on my out.
Jono's up. Jono's rock.
Okay, so
How's that work? Does Mark beat Jono?
You kill me.
We all cancel each other out.
That didn't work, did it?
No.
That was the
Jono-
perfect combination for not to work.
How about Jono goes first?
I'll
Yeah,
go first.
there we
How's
go.
that?
Okay. We need
Right.
to add lizard.
That was a perfect combination for this not to work.
So for me, I have always been a bit of a generalist with my rifles. The first rifle I ever bought was a 308 because it could shoot almost anything that I could hunt in Africa. I couldn't afford dangerous game or anything like that, and I could take down any animal. I moved to the UK, and the first rifle I bought was actually a 7x57 or a 7mm Mauser. However, I struggled to get ammunition for it. It wasn't a very common caliber, so I actually traded it in and bought a beautiful Tikka T3. This is actually a T3, not a T3X. Super varmint. I actually put it up on Instagram and Facebook quite recently. Moderator on the front. It's actually my favorite rifle I've ever owned. A nice heavy barrel. So I've always been a generalist, and I've always found that the 308 works perfectly for me. It's been able to take down pretty much any animal that I've wanted to hunt until just over 12 months ago, we visited the Northern Territory, and all of a sudden things changed. And the target species were buffalo, donkeys, and pigs. And I felt that my little 308 might potentially be a little bit underpowered, or maybe not underpowered. I think, as was proved by what Ian did, 30 cal could take down a buffalo, absolutely. But I wanted something a little bit different. So what did I do is I went out and bought myself a 9.3 by 6.2. I have a Sauer 100 right here. See? That's my Sauer 100 in 9.3 by 6.2. And this one has actually got even quite a good story to it, because when we got to the territory, we went out in the first morning and we went walking up the creek line, and I loaded the ammunition into the magazine, and we walked up the creek, and Mark was like, there's a pig. And I went to go and chamber a round, and the round wouldn't chamber. So I ejected that one, tried another one, wouldn't chamber properly, but the bolt wouldn't close. Tried another one, pig obviously by this point had heard us and ran off. We then sat down under the tree and kind of had a break and something to eat, and we had a look at the ammunition and realized that it was actually a 9.3 by 6.2. Oh, sorry, 6.6.
6 Tackle.
6.6 Sako, which was just, that it was at 4mm difference. Makes all the difference when it comes to ammunition. And the round wouldn't chamber. So obviously got rid of that. Got the SMBs after that, the 9.3 by 6.2 SMBs. I think there were 280 grains.
286, which is the kind
286
of
grain.
standard 9.3 round.
But after that rifle shot beautifully. Obviously, I shot a donkey with that, and now the donkeys, as we spoke about recently, could take a lot of lead.
For those that aren't familiar with the Northern Territory story and the gun jamming incident, we'll insert the video right here for you to go and have a look. There'll be a snippet here for you to see.
Yep, very true.
Mark and Jono wondering what the is going on
What's
there.
going on? That's true. We do have that on video.
Because
Yeah,
that's right. I was trying to get the camera set up and everything. It's pig. And that was the first game animal we actually saw.
It was the first animal. Yeah.
First morning, first game animal. Pig.
You know who didn't miss that day? I didn't miss getting that on video. Just saying. It was great.
But yeah, look, I mean, I bought this 9.3 specifically for buffalo. I'll put it up again. It has been slightly modified. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it certainly wasn't that color when I first bought it. And it's got a Picatinny rail now on it. Now, if everyone remembers, we had Byron from the Beretta Gun Shop on the podcast several episodes ago. I'm not sure of the exact one. But this sour actually went down to Byron and it went down to their workshop and they Cerakoted it for me in a beautiful, I think it's a graphite color. They've Cerakoted the Picatinny rail and they've mounted that for me. And like Mark posted recently with the magazine, I also had my magazine Cerakoted blaze orange with the graphite bottom. Really good. Great. I'm not going to lose that in the dark. But yeah, why did I choose the 9.3? Yep, there we go. It's a different color by the looks of it. Slightly different color.
Yeah, it's a bit brighter, isn't it?
Different camera.
Maybe. But why did I go 9.3? Yeah. So in Africa, the minimum caliber for dangerous game is a 375.
And I contemplated getting a 375 because, you know, it's a caliber that I could then take to Africa and I could use to hunt dangerous game. However, I found the supply of 375 rifles in Australia is a bit limited. There's not that many of them around, and ammunition supply was also, you know, it's harder to get hold of. I don't reload. I have reloaded in the past. I don't reload at the moment. I have a reloading kit packed away in my shed somewhere. I haven't unpacked it in 10 years. Why? Because I think factory ammunition is really good these days, and generally it's easily available. But I went for the 9.3 because of that heavy bullet. It's you know, it's really packing a punch when it comes to those dangerous game animals. So some countries will actually allow you to shoot dangerous game with a 9.3, despite them saying minimum caliber is 375. So it's a lot less recoil than a 375, but it still packs a good punch. You can shoot a heavy bullet. I'm shooting 286 grains out of that, and it performed beautifully. I shot 2 buffalo, shot the donkey. Didn't shoot a pig, unfortunately, but I think it's a fantastic caliber, and I chose it specifically for the territory. I think I will take it after reds at some point. I think it'll work pretty well in the raw, where you're generally shooting the red stags up close. They're raw, and you can get it nice and close. I think it'll some really good knockdown power. I know we're talking about scopes and low magnification. I had your Swarovski 1:6 by 24, I think it was. Mounted on that for the territory trip, and that's a beautiful scope for that rifle. It's nice low powered. I mean, I shot mine, I think the first one was at about 60 meters, and the second one was about 80 meters. I think I had it on 3 power on the scope. Didn't need anything more than that.
Nope.
And I love it. I think it doesn't kick. I know, Ian, you disagree with that. You think it kicks quite hard.
I think the reason it kicked me hard was because the length of pull was different. Everything kicks harder in a range situation. You're not standing upright. It's not quite shouldered perfectly, the same as it would be if you were standing upright or in a field position. And it just didn't fit me well, so it belted me, which made me scared of it. Which means I don't want to shoot it ever again.
And then just commenting on the rifle itself, so the SAR 100, that's the classic that I've got. I think it's a beautiful rifle. I think it's well made. My only real complaint on it is the bolt, and the way that the bolt actually fits in. I find it's actually very easy to decock the bolt as you're inserting it. So you take it off the spring.
Okay.
And it's actually quite a mission then to get it back onto the spring. So on my Tika, I was always taught that if you're storing your rifle, you actually take the pressure off the spring. Otherwise, the spring is under constant tension. It can actually cause the spring to decompress. Yep. I know modern rifles, you don't really have to do that, but I was always told if you're storing a rifle and not shooting it very often, you take the tension off the spring. And Tika's is actually quite easy. You can just turn the back of the bolt and it reduces the tension on the spring. With the sour bolt, it does it itself quite easily, and it's very hard to get that tension back onto the. So that's. I actually had to Google it, and there was a video.
I've never heard about taking the tension off the spring.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
I've heard that you shouldn't store ammo in magazines because it flattens the spring in the ammo.
The same thing.
But the ammo flattens the spring in the magazine. It overly compresses it so they don't load. But I've never heard about it, the actual bolt spring.
So the first rifle I ever bought was a Creco 308, and I actually had issues with the firing pin. The spring inside it was actually really had lost its springiness. And after that, the gunsmith that I saw, he was a custom gun maker as well. He always said the best thing to do if you're not shooting it very often is to store it with the tension.
It's not as easy as it sounds for some bolts, though.
No, and that's what I'm saying. So my Tikka is really easy. The sour is not.
So if you just basically dropped it onto a dummy round, like a practice round,
you could do a cap. Yeah.
Then that'd take the tension.
There's still a little bit of tension on the spring, so it's still holding quite a bit of tension on it, so that when you cock it, it then pulls the spring back even further. You can actually release it further.
With the Tikkas, you got the little
the little notch in it. And when I bought my Super Varmint, it actually came with a little.
Some of them, there's a little tool that
you could undo it. Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I was taught. Was always when you're storing your bolt, undo the tension on the spring. I don't do it anymore because I shoot a lot more frequently. Maybe it's something I should get back into.
Never heard of that one.
Shotguns are the same. Supposed to decock.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially.
But we're not talking about guns, so carry on.
We're not talking about shotguns.
Shotguns, especially field shotguns, that they close to fire.
Yep.
You two caps and pop. Yep.
Yeah, and then you're still supposed to release the tension even more.
Yep.
So for instance, on my Silver Pigeon, you put your snap caps in, you release them, and then there's actually a way to release the tension even further. You hold the little lug in, and then you drop the cocking pin, and it actually reduces the tension even more.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. So you are supposed to do that. You really just take that tension off your springs, because over time, if the spring is under tension for too long, it could potentially cause it to lose its
tires. Yep. So
you could always buy a Beretta shotgun, and Forever Servicing will take care of that for you.
True.
They're good like that.
They are good. If they would only come to Queensland a bit more.
They
often.
do come to Queensland.
Yeah, they do.
A bit more often.
Yeah, they come out to Roma. They do the Roma shoot.
Exactly on my back door, is it?
Oh, well. Get a free service. Chat to the boys at Beretta. It's worth the drive.
Oh, yeah. And look, I mean, I've got a Beretta shotgun. It was my 40th wedding present from my wife. It was a beautiful Beretta shotgun. So,
lovely.
Love that thing. Yeah.
Mark, first rifle?
Okay, so the first rifle I'm going to talk about, not the first rifle I ever owned. So, are you asking me about the first rifle I've ever owned?
No.
The first rifle
you want to talk about.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about my 3006, which is a Tikka T3. Now, I don't actually own any non-custom rifles, I've realised. So this is a customised Tikka T3. So I got this back in 2008. Took me 9 months to get. And I learned a valuable lesson about PTAs, folks. Don't get your PTA until the rifle's in the country, because they only last for 90 days and they keep running out while your rifle's not in the country. So get your PTA when the rifle's in the country. So this started life as a stainless Hunter in left hand. That's why it took me that long to get, because at the time when Tikka were making the T3s, they were doing them in runs. And since I wanted the 3006 left hand, I had to wait for the 3006 left hand run to come back through because there was none available. So it took that long to get. So it started life as a stainless Hunter, and just about most of the stuff, a lot of the stuff's been changed. So what's been changed is the stock. If you can see, the stock is a custom stock. And in that, what I mean by custom stock is I went to a custom stock builder and with my wife, and we spent 2 hours picking the right kind of timber.
And she had a ball.
Yeah, it was literally in the little squirt gun, and you rub it on to see what the grain's going to look in. It was fantastic. So we went and did that, and then they take your measurements, and then you don't see your rifle for 3 months. And they occasionally send you pictures of its development. So this is really built just for me. So the actual pool's longer. This is about a 14.5-inch pool. So it's longer than a normal Tikka. It's also got a pancake cheek plate, which is on the left-hand side, which is where it should be, as in for a left-hand shooter. Like that. Action and barrel have been Cerakoted I think it's called Midnight Black. So it's the closest thing they've got to looks like a blue, a shiny blue. So it looks like a traditional English shiny blue. The timber in the stock is Afghan walnut with what's the name? New Guinea ebony. So there's New Guinea there and New Guinea ebony there. The trigger assembly is an Atlas trigger assembly. So and magwell is an Atlas magwell. So that's been upgraded. So it's metal because the ones on the T3s were plastic or the composite plastic. I usually run the short mag in it, so it's a flush mount. Unless I'm in the Pilliga, then I put the 5-shot in there. The rear of the bolt on the old was plastic again on the Tikka T3s, and that used to break after a while, so that's a metal one. It ran the Tikka rings for a while because Tikka rifles used to come with a set of aluminium rings, and they tended to fail on 30 cals. I got about 5 or 6 years before they started to fail, but these are Optilocks, and it's currently been running this Predator 4 Steiner scope for a couple of years, which is actually a really fantastic scope. It's 2 to 5 by 10, illuminated reticle, but it's not a dot; it's illuminated cross. What else is on there? Triggers had a little bit of work. Cerakote, stock. Even the sling is a. Can you see it? No, you can't see it. You can maybe. It's a Holland and Holland sling that I bought from Holland and Holland in England because that was the only thing I could afford to buy in Holland was a sling. So yeah, so she runs a Holland and Holland leather sling. It's a tack driver. It's been.
What was the scope that you've got on?
The scope is a Predator 4, 2 to 10, 2.5 to 10 by I think it's by 44.
And it's your go-to 42. Rifle for what?
This is my deer rifle. So right. This gets. I know it sounds a bit silly, but I've actually got almost too many knifed rifles now. So I don't use this as much in a way as I like to, not because I don't have the opportunity, it's just that I've got other things that I use. So that's my deer rifle. I carry that in March and April, Brisbane Valley. So it's a tack driver. It's actually a remarkable rifle in that sense. You can just literally pick it up and take it to the range before deer season and put 3 rounds in it and go, why bother driving out here? It's that reliable. What I'm doing with that particular rifle is I'm moving that up to 180 grain projectiles, those normal Oryx. I'm going to start running those in there. So I'm going to lift it up because I usually run 150 grains. I'm going to run it 180 and I'm going to zero them in for 200. So I'm going to make that my 200-yard deer rifle. So it's going to be that's what that is for, and I'll carry it in the Brisbane Valley. The weird thing, or one of the things that people are surprised about when they see this rifle is it's actually how light it is. That timber is not heavy at all. It
looks heavy. Yep.
Yeah, no. It looks like a big
dense,
heavy rifle.
Dense,
it's not. It's actually really light. Surprisingly light for what it is, for the quality of that rifle. I've hunted hunted everywhere with that rifle except for Northern Territory. Boy, it's killed a lot of stuff. It's a fantastic rifle. That's the only downside is my boys aren't left-handed. So
we'll talk about the BRX later.
Yeah, that's it. It's not
What
left-handed.
What about you, Ian? What's your first choice?
Well, I'll zip through my first rifle first, and then I'll show one that I brought. So my first rifle, I've talked about this before. Walked into the local gun shop, told them I wanted to be a deer hunter, and I walked out of there with, well, not quite that day, but with a 270. So it was a Remington 700 270, as bog standard as they could possibly get. Black plastic stock, glued rifle, did the job really well. Thought I was a sniper. Bought this. It's great. 5 to 12. No, it's not. It's 5 to 15, and it was the Bushnell Elite at the time, 3200. And I put that on the top of it, and off to the range I went. Sighted that in, and it was my trusty rifle for a long time. Very, very quickly worked out that 5 power was way too much for my minimum option, given that we were stalking around in the bush, chasing red stags in the Kilcoy area. So, but I persevered, took my first deer in Australia with that rifle, and many after that. And, you know, it's done a reasonable job, and it sits up in the safe at home, and it doesn't get a lot of use anymore. It'll eventually be my young fella's rifle when he's looking for his first one to go deer hunting. Chose the 270 at the time because it was the minimum cal for sambar, and I wanted something that I could take, you know, most of the Australian deer species with. And all the talk was sambar at the time. Yes, there were reds and fallow and bits and pieces, but everyone was talking about sambar, and I just figured I was going to go and chase sambar. That's why I was going to get into hunting, and I had to keep myself up really to suit that. So that was that. The first one that I brought here, and it's been my go-to rifle since I upgraded from that one. One moment.
Was that Remington the SPS?
CDL,
Yep.
isn't it?
No,
CDL was the better quality one.
That's the wooden stock one, is a CDL.
Yeah, CDL,
Yeah.
and often with a stainless barrel, the CDL.
So this was my first purpose rifle. Purpose, I mean, the other one had purpose, but this was after I'd spent a bit of time and I knew kind of what I wanted to do. So I went and bought the Tikka T3X Lite. It's fluted. Unlike Mark, I don't have a rifle that is custom. So this is a Tikka stock. It has a Tikka, whatever the hell you called that. Every other part on here is a Tikka. I didn't go to Holland and get a sling. It doesn't even have a sling. I don't like carrying slings. In fact, I've taken them off. Now that I carry cameras and, you know, bino rigs have become a big thing, I find that slings get in the way. Even the safari-style slings get in the way. But on a trip to New Zealand, my uncle at the time had the scope, was the Sig Sauer BDX combo scope that paired by Bluetooth to a rangefinder. So once you'd set up your ballistics profile, you could hit the button and it would give you a holdover position. And when we were shooting in the Southern Alps, he was the only one that had an electronic style scope, and he had a mad advantage over most of us. So not that he took a deer that trip, and he probably took that deer over somebody else because they didn't have the ability to range it quickly across a gully at 400 to 500 meters. So I sort of came back and went, oh, there's technical scopes. That's a cool idea. And I went and saved up my dollars and I put this one on here. And it's been a great package for me. Took quite a few deer with this. The other reason I decided on that scope specifically was we were doing a lot of mentor hunting with our club. So we were taking a lot of new guys out for their first animal. And I found that having a scope that could automatically range for me was a good backstop option for me if something went wrong with the new guy's first shot, wounded an animal, and I needed to try and take it out quickly. So that's what I did with that. I love this rifle. It's a great rifle. The Tikkas are really well, built out of the box. They're great. And again, I don't tend to customize much other than sticking accessories like these on them to give me,
I'm the same.
those sorts of things. But that's all I need to say about that. This one is in 7mm Rem mag. So, it was a caliber that I quite liked. a lot of the guys that I was hunting with were using 7mm, so they were in vogue at the time, and it's pretty much probably why I selected it. It's a good caliber. I really do like the rifle. Sadly, it spends most of its time on the wall in the room. It doesn't in the safe. It doesn't get out much anymore. It will do, but for now, I'm playing with other things. That's my first one.
Yeah, John.
So you've done your buff rifle and your big game rifle.
Yep.
What's next in the arsenal?
In my arsenal, my battery is this beauty.
The battery.
So this is a rifle that I think everyone should own. This caliber, at least, is a 22.
Oh yes.
So this is a German Krico 22, which not many people have heard of. The Krico, which is Krico. I actually own 2 Kricos, which, considering most people have never heard of it, the first rifle I ever bought was a 308 Krico, which I still own to this day in South Africa. And I did put a post up on that showing the rifle. And I wasn't actively looking for a 22, but Pine River's Gunsmith, Mark, I know you know them, the Pine River's Gun Shop, they're in Norton. They no longer exist, unfortunately. No. But they had this 22 in their shop for about 6 months, and they couldn't get rid of it. And it's in pretty good nick. Like the barrel needs to be redone, and I think I'll probably send it down to Byron at some point to get it Cerakoted. But as soon as I saw the brand, and it just, for me, it's got huge sentimental value. It's a beautiful rifle. It's super accurate. And I bought it. I think it cost me $250 for that rifle. And for me, it's a caliber that every person should own. To take it down to the range and shoot off 50 rounds is nothing. My kids, it's going to be the rifle that they learn to shoot on. I hope, anyway. I hope they're keen. But my wife shot it. She loves it. She's actually a pretty good shot. And for me, it's just the perfect little rifle. It's so accurate. I've got it zeroed at 50 meters. I can take it down to the range, and I'm guaranteed just to shoot, smaller than MOA groups on that thing. I absolutely love that rifle. I haven't shot game with it yet. I did have on which trip was that?
I think. Is it bunnies?
Yeah, I think. No. Yeah, there we go. There's the invitation. No, I think it was on the Slam video, the Slam trip, where we saw some bunnies on the way back to camp, and I had a shot at one that one night. And I missed it, and I realized afterwards the car was still idling, and I was resting off the car, and that's why it was doing this in the scope.
That's how every farmer shoots them, mate. You're right.
But that's the only shot I've ever had a game on that. Otherwise, it just goes to the range, and I just have fun with it. So definitely keen to shoot some game with it. Shoot some bunnies with that would be awesome fun. I love it. I think the 22 is just the classic caliber, and hopefully one day that goes to my son. That's where I want it to go. He's already expressed an interest in it. He needs to be old enough to have his license. So I think I've got 4 years to go, and then that'll be the first rifle he shoots, to shoot with. But yeah, it's just this beautiful old German, beautiful timber on it. As you can see, the barrel needs a little bit of work. I'll definitely be sending that off to Byron, but to be honest, I want to try and keep it. It's pretty good. It's just the blue on the barrel's slightly worn off. I think the previous owner didn't look after it very well, but I kind of like keeping it original. That's, for me, it's an original rifle. I don't really want to change it, and the brand just really holds something sentimental to me.
Whilst we're on 22s, because I don't think Mark brought a 22 to show and tell.
And a 22.
I have a Russian Toz.
If it doesn't have a 3 in it, I don't own it.
This is a Russian Toz.
Yeah. No man killer at both ends.
I don't know anything about the Russian Toz. It could be a really amazing 22.
Not bad.
It could be a giant heap of whatever. I was gifted by somebody a 22, and it was a Sportco from the Kmart jobby from years ago. And the entire thing, except the barrel, was plastic. The trigger guard was plastic. The trigger was plastic. Everything around it was plastic, and it had a plastic stock, and it shot perfectly. I could sit on my veranda back at the farm. This is a farm I used to own, and I could shoot bottle tops off the top of a post without even being able to see the bottle tops through the scope. I just knew where they were, and I could plink them off the top of it. It was just deadly accurate. It was so good. But then all the plastic broke one day. The whole thing fell a bit, so I took all of the pieces to the gun shop and traded it for a Russian Toz. Not because I only realised it was a Russian Toz because I'm looking at the writing now. I had no idea what it was. I just wanted a little 22 for the farm. So they had this thing, and it already had this beautiful Nico Sterling scope on it, as you see here, which, you know how on the front of these things you change it for, 25 yards, 50, 75, 100, and then it's got the infinity symbol at the end of it. There you go. Mine is only clear on infinity. It doesn't work on any of the other settings. So
that's your parallax, by the way.
Yeah, no, I realize that. Anyway, you're right. 22s. I think you got to have one, especially if you've got access to go and shoot bunnies. I love the idea that you can just go out with 50 rounds and it costs you almost nothing, and you can just put some time in behind a little trigger and have a lot of fun with it. My son will get to use this at some point. He's got to turn 11 first. Yep. And while we're talking about that, just a minor deviation of subject, talking to a fella about whether you can take your kids shooting in Queensland supervised. And most of us, including me at the time, believed, like all dads for history, teach their kids to shoot under supervision on the farm, right? It's just what sort of happens, how you learn rifle safety and all those sorts of things. Well, in Queensland, you can't do that. You're not allowed. No one, if you don't have a license in Queensland or New South Wales or Victoria, the only place you're allowed to use a rifle is supervised by an RSO at a range. You're not allowed under supervision to shoot it on a farm, no matter how old you are. If you don't have a license, you're not allowed to touch it. The only caveat to that in Queensland only, and not New South Wales or Victoria, but in Queensland, if you're a primary producer and for work purposes, you need to supervise either your son or daughter over 11 years old or a worker. You're allowed to supervise them for the purpose of training them how to use a rifle to put an animal down or something like that. But that is it. You've got to be a primary producer, and it's got to be for actual work purposes, not culling or anything like, not hunting deer. So that's a really interesting point to know. But anyway, 22, I like it. It's good. This one's in pretty average condition, but I'll end up doing it up and keeping it for years, I hope.
There you go.
Mark, what do you got next?
I don't have a 22. I am buying one at the moment for my boy who is turning 11 next year.
HMR. 17 HMR.
17 HMR, I've owned one. It's an awesome caliber.
I like the 22.
It's a loud crack, though. It's loud. Very loud.
Yeah, louder than the 33?
Yes, in a way.
Massive,
it's kind of a
massive,
different
massive
kind
crack.
of. It's a different kind. Yeah,
it's a very sharp crack. Yeah,
it's like you got when you with those 22 250s. That kind of zinging
loud crack. It is an awesome caliber.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Let's go back to the 22 for a second. So on the farm, going out, knock a bunny. Probably could use it on a fox, but I'm going to use the 223 if I'm chasing foxes. We'll talk about that in a minute. What do you think the effective range of a 22 is?
For me,
are you
objective? I know.
Yeah,
75 shooting.
Yeah, 50 to 75 meters maximum. For me.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, maximum. I'm super accurate at 50, but after that it starts.
And then absolutely susceptible to weather. A little bit of wind, stuff's going a bit sideways on you. Mark, you had a different opinion?
No, I look, for most people, I'm
talking averages.
If you're shooting a quality 22 that's accurate and you've got it dialed in and you're shooting good ammo, you could probably deliver a kill shot out to 100 yards.
Still pretty short range.
That's
on a rabbit, but probably not.
Look, you could go further, but I wouldn't feel comfortable anywhere doing that. You hit a fox in the head with a 22, you'll kill it. You just got to hit it in the head. when I was in England, one of the guys who's one of the leases I was hunting on, which is actually where they filmed Downton Abbey. It's not Downton Abbey. It's the place where they filmed Downton Abbey. I was on that property. On that property, or on the border of that property, is a caravan where a gypsy lives. A real gypsy lives in the caravan. And they quite like this guy because he really looks after the place. He's been there for a long time. His caravan's just basically off the side of the road. And I think they were talking to him once, and or one of his acquaintances who had basically shot deer with a 22 all his life, So that's what he shot deer with.
Of course you can.
So that's it. I mean, that's it. It's how close you are and where you're putting that plug. But for most people,
I use it for knocking sheep over when I want to.
I know. Yeah,
you're within 20 meters.
That's it. So it's what you're doing with it. I mean, I'm getting the boy at 22, but I'm going to get a lever action because I like lever actions, and also but by the fact that he's a righty and I'm a lefty, I want a rifle that we can sit at the range and learn together and move across together. So yeah, I actually did have a CZ 4.52 Deluxe, so with the Bavarian
4.52. Yeah.
It was a beautiful rifle. I picked it up at Stevens and Sons, which was a gun shop out towards the range here at Belmont that closed down years ago. I walked in there on a Saturday afternoon, and there it was, and I went, "Yeah, I'll take that." It was a righty. It was a fantastic rifle. Shot brilliantly. I moved it on because it just wasn't. I wasn't doing anything with it. So, but what I am doing with is this rifle. Now, this rifle is a rifle that I built with SSAA and Beretta Australia, and it's pretty hard to see, but it's actually got a SSAA insignia on it, which is something that Byron did. Byron built this rifle from scratch. He was the guy who led the construction project. How it came about was unbeknownst to me, and what I mean by that is they didn't really give me a rundown of what was happening. I got invited to a meeting to discuss a rifle build between Beretta and SSAA, and all of a sudden it was like, "So Mark, what do you want?" I went, I beg your pardon, and it kind of went from there. And when I built this thing, I always had this fear that I was going to build the Homomobile. I was going to build this thing that had all the bits on it but didn't work. So this is using readily available materials. This is really a custom rifle. So it's a CDR, the Tikka T3X CTR in 308, lefty. It's got the threaded barrel like all CTRs, and it uses that Seiko magazine system, which is a little. Now people reckon people complain about that, but actually when you talk to the guys at Seiko, it's supposed to do that. It's supposed to be loose. It was designed for cold weather in and out. So it's actually supposed. So you can actually take that out of it. What it does, it slows the change right down. It was supposed to be for a quick change. So it actually, by very nature, is a bit loose. And the magazine's got that wonderful big rubber foot plate, which acts like a really good rest. So, and it's got Byron's fluoro mag in there. So so what have we got here is we've got a Ranger 6 scope that's been color coded to match all the other metalwork. So the action and barrel and scope are all one color. The rings are a slightly different color to give it some contrast. Even redid the Steiner brand once they cerakoted it, so they put the Steiner back on. So they asked if I wanted a different barrel. I stayed with the CDR barrel, which is kind of like a semi sporter barrel, so it's slightly heavier than a true sporter. The stock is a Mesa stock, and it's got quite a sharp, or what they call a vertical grip, so it's quite a straight grip. It's also quite big people often kind of go, well, that's a bit too, but it seems to fit my hand really well. The stock is Monte Carlo-esque. It's not a true Monte Carlo, but it's very Monte Carlo-esque. So it's got that, which means it's got that higher comb in there and it drops down at the back. That's something that Weatherby really made their own when they made the rifles. It's for us dudes with long necks. That's what it's for. So composite fibre stock in the pattern there, which is what they call an altitude pattern. It's got a natural grip rust. So it does not check it. It's got a gripping there on the pistol grip, quite wide pistol grip, right through to the colour-coded metal. And I'm currently running that new magazine in it, which is the Blaze Orange. And the sling on it is a Dingo leather sling, which is an Australian leather company. So that's a 308, and that is set up based on the idea of, maximum point blank for 150 grain pill, which means it's basically about 2.5 inches high. It's like about 3 inches high at 100, about 1.5 inches high at 200, and somewhere between 275 and 300 yards, it falls below 3 inches below. So it shoots the idea it can shoot a 6-inch box without adjustment out to around 275 yards. So for most cases, you pick it up and you point it at something, medium-sized game, goat, pig, deer, and you aim for the vitals, you're going to hit it in the vitals. So it's that kind of all-round, do-it-all type of rifle. It's a great state forest gun because it's a 10-round magazine. It's a double stack, so it carries a heap of ammo. Of course, that obviously adds to the weight for it. But it's not. It's a light rifle. It wasn't designed to be a lightweight rifle. It was designed to be a more of a, you could use this rifle anywhere. So it was an idea of trying to build a general purpose rifle, which is almost a kind of trap to fall into, because you always get a situation where it's not perfect. But the idea was it would be as perfect as it could be in any situation you'll find yourself in Australia. That was the idea.
Cracking rifle for the Peliger.
Yeah, it's been a cracking rifle for everywhere. It works. The CTRs.
Even the layman can see that the detail that Byron's put on that. You've obviously given him some pointers as to what you were looking for, but to even redo the Steiner logo, where after he's recolored, the contrasting rings, all of that sort of stuff. It's so well detailed, just to look at. I think it's an impressive bit of gear.
And it's got its name. We even named it, and the name is Indi, INDI, and that name was Indi, as in it was in an individual rifle. But what it was really named for, Indi, which is shows how much of a nerd I am, it was named after. So for those who know seen the TV series or read the books about the character Horatio Hornblower, who was a sailor in the British, the Royal Navy during the war with Napoleon. He sailed on a ship called the Indefatigable, which is never tiring. And in the book, they called the ship the Indy. So that's what that's for, never tiring. That's what the name refers to. So that's why it's the Indy. And
none of my guns have names.
Yeah, well, that's they asked me, what would you name it? I'm something, Call of the Wild or something like that. No, I thought, no, it's what it is. It's never tiring. So it's indefatigable. So that's which is why it's the Indy, because you couldn't put that, not enough room to write that on there. So that's that was part of a three each month over 3 months lead story for SSAA, and it was part of a 2-rifle build. Gemma built the other rifle, and earlier this year with Joe from our friend DPI Joe and Gemma and I went hunting, and Gemma took the rifle that she built with Beretta, and we took that one. We got them, and that was the first time we had them both together in the field.
Very good.
Yeah.
Nice. Ian, what have you got?
I'll start with my. I've got 3 left to show. The ones I've shown so far are really just and other than the 22, I guess I still use that. But these are the ones I'm currently using. Let me just grab one. 1 sec. The one I put up on Instagram today. So this one's come out of retirement. I bought this rifle. It's another 700, but it's the varmint version of the 700. I bought this one because it was the same platform as the first one that I got sold, and I really enjoyed using that rifle, but this one's a lot heavier. It's been on the shelf for eons, but I purchased this at the time because I was doing a lot of dog shooting around the area for the neighbours, and I wanted something less expensive in a 223, so that's what I was chasing dogs with, boxes with, and occasionally you'd knock a bunny or two over if they were running around. But it's the same Remington 700 platform. It's as standard as it gets. It's a standard plastic, horrible stock, but it does the job, and it gets knocked about, and it goes in the Polaris now, and it just goes around the property. It's now got the infrared tube thermal on it that I'm starting to have a look at, and this is the rifle that I'm going to put most of the thermal things that we try out on, because it's going to get the most use. We've got quite a few foxes and wild dogs and bunnies and things around, and it's the most practical thing for me for me to be using for that task. Nothing more I can tell you about this. It's very bloody heavy, and it's good to lean on the edge of the side-by-side. That's pretty much where it is. I'll leave the tube alone for now, suffice other than to say it's their latest version 2 of the TH50. It's an excellent thermal scope, day-night scope. More to come on that. Great caliber, 33.
It is a good caliber. Yeah, definitely for that varmint stuff.
Have you ever seen the Remington 700 VTR? It was a really weird one they brought out. The barrel is almost triangular.
I have seen it.
Yeah, and they came out in green with black trim. I never saw them in any other colour, green, black trim, and the barrel was this kind of, it's not triangular, but it's triangular-like, and it actually had 3 cuts in it to act as like a muzzle brake. So it was like had a factory muzzle brake on the barrels. It was a really, really weird rifle. And I actually knew someone who owned one, and a little while ago I saw one for sale. I went, wow, you didn't see a lot of them, but they were really interesting. Because that 700 series, there's so many variations of that 700 series.
Yeah, and look, it's a pretty solid platform.
Yeah,
people
it is.
like it.
There's Remington 700.
Flash about it. There's nothing special about it. It's just a tried and tested platform. It doesn't seem to have a lot of, you can still buy the same one today as you would have bought years ago. It did a good job, but I think like I said, I bought the 223 because it was the same platform that I already had. I don't know. You kind of stick with what you know at the time. And I was still fairly new into shooting and hunting in Australia, so I was just sort of relying on the little bit of knowledge that I had, and that worked really well. And it'll stay with me. It's a good rifle. The varmint barrels, it'll just keeps on shooting, so it's really good.
Yeah, well, there's the Ruger. I think it's the M77. There's the Remington 700, and there's the Savage 110. These are, they're actions that kind of came out in the 50s and 60s, and they just built their whole range on those actions. So
yeah. The other reason that I bought I changed from the 700 was when I started doing state forest hunting. It's got a floor plate in it. It doesn't have a box mat. It's got a floor plate in it, and when you're going through exclusion zones and areas all the time, you've got to drop the rounds out, and it's just a pain in the neck doing that with a floor plate. Pulling a mag out's way easier than doing that.
Agreed.
So about then I started to think, I'd rather have a magazine. Also, I was doing a little bit of roo shooting, tagged roo shooting, things like that, and having to top load. After 4 rounds or something like that, having to top load some more rather than just pulling another magazine out, clipping it in the bottom. It was just a pain in the neck. There were times when we were out where other guys had magazines and they had a buddy with them, and their buddy was loading the magazine and he was shooting, and I was fucking, top loading.
Yeah.
And it was just became a pain in the neck. Now I do understand with that series you can pull the plate off it and get a aftermarket magazine for them. Hadn't got around to doing that. Was always a little bit dubious about buying gun parts online without not having the knowledge of what worked and what didn't, because there were options and I didn't really understand the options. It wasn't until I started doing more with the ADA and, once I joined a club, that I was able to start asking questions, to more experienced people about what you could and what you couldn't do. And I think in the end, I optioned up and bought a new rifle. So, yeah, it's good.
Well, I've got one more rifle to go. Jono's tapped out. So why don't you have another one, Ian, and then I'll jump into mine.
So this is now my go-to state forest bush hunting rifle, basically, and buffalo rifle, and I just love this rifle. So this is the BRS.
Oh, there we go.
I don't have the bolt in it or the slide in it. You call it a bolt? Yes, you call it a bolt.
Yeah,
slide bolt.
Just not.
I don't have it in there at the moment.
Bolt.
It's still in the safe. But basically, this is the straight pull. Mark will talk more about the specs. Mark's version's customized, as is all of his rifles. But this is how you get it standard out of the box. I love it. It's a good weight. When I first got it, I thought, not sure about that. It's got this funky sort of shape trigger guard, and I thought, they've tried a bit maybe hard on this, but the more I used it, the more I really liked it. It's got a really nice weight. It's got a lot of chunkiness in the action so that it takes a lot of recoil out. Doesn't need a lot of bulk back here, and I don't notice the recoil in it at all. This one's in 30.06. It's the one I took the young buffalo with last year. It's the one I'll take back this year. Up in the territory, I used an aim point on it. I loved this gun with an aim point. It was so fast. Boom, boom, boom. Like
you shot all the pigs.
I shot all the pigs before anyone else had a chance. So I was a bit selfish. But it's just, it's their new platform. I see that you can now buy the barrel kits have come out now.
Yep, you can change the caliber kits.
I don't understand these rules yet, and I'd love it if one of you two understood this. But this is a 30.06. On my PTA, it's a 30.06. On my weapons list, it's a 30.06. How can I buy a 9.3 barrel and not have it on my PTA? Because I know it's the action that you're licensed. It's not the barrel, but when I'll make...
You're changing caliber.
You're changing the caliber. How do these rules... I don't get these rules, and it's something we'll have to understand. I've asked a few people, and they don't quite get it either. But it's exciting that we can now, this year or next year, we go in the territory again. We've got a pig rifle, and then with a couple of screws and a couple of twists, I can swap this out with the 9.3. So you change the bolt face, change the barrel, put your ammo in, off you go. Man, that's such an exciting proposition. I really hope we have the barrels that we can do that with. But yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Very, very, very fast, and with the aim point just so quick to acquire target. I've taken that off now because I went from Northern Territory and then into the fallow rut and into State Forest. This is the Steiner Predator 8. So it's a 2 to 16, sorry. And so it's got that really nice low power for State Forest, and pretty much it stayed on 2 power the whole time that I was there. Again, still super quick to acquire. I don't know. There's not a lot more I can say about it. It's just a really nice concept. I know other people, or other brands, I should say, have brought out a straight pull. My first love of straight pulls, and I really, really wanted the Blazer R8 leather. It's such a
beautiful rifle.
That's what I had my dreams. I was selling all my other rifles, thinking that I could pick one of them up. But this came out, and I thought, wow, this is something quite cool. there was another brand that bought a straight pull out.
Browning got a
It
straight
was-
pull
Yeah,
out.
there's
had a
is
dodgy
it the
slide and I don't know if
Magal?
it's-
Or
Oh,
Not
there's-
sure.
starts
It
with
didn't work
M,
as
the
well.
Browning. Is it?
Yeah.
It's
Oh, it's a
Magal.
Merkel.
Merkel, yeah.
No,
that's
well, the Browning's actually the name of the
Browning,
Browning.
and
though,
then
is-
you've got the Browning.
the name of the Browning rifle is an M, something like it.
Yeah, and then there's
Yeah.
the Merkel as well. Which
Yeah,
is,
Merkel.
One of them was a bit dodge, from what I remember, and the jury was out on these when they came out as to how they were going to perform. These have got some pretty gnarly stuff in here. All right, if you don't get the slide in properly, you've got bits of metal flicking up all over the place, and you think you've broken it, but you haven't. You just push them back down, and away you go, and you get used to it. Another mate of ours, another Mark that is, he bought one of these, and he was a bit concerned about the same things that I was with the slide getting it in. But once it's in, it's sweet.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just really enjoy this rifle. It's, like I say, it's a good weight. It just shoots so well. And I'm using Sarko ammunition. I originally set it up with 180s. I think it was 180s.
was 180s, yes.
Pretty sure it was 180s, and it just loved them. And then I dropped them back to 170s, and it didn't like them at all. So back to the 180s, and that's where it'll stay. Looking forward to taking that back to the territory.
The
That was
Browning
it.
is the Merrill.
Marl, that's it.
Tell us about the custom job, Mark.
Well,
You'll do a better description than I would, but it's this one gets polished before it goes to bed.
So, Mark, you did say I tapped out, but I've decided I'm not ready to tap out yet, and I have one to show.
Yeah, I don't know how you would tap out when you've got that in the safe. I really
Exactly.
don't, you know.
So that's the Benelli Lupo.
It is such a nice rifle.
So, I didn't mention the fact that I own a Ferrari.
I thought I'd save the best for last anyway. But yes, I have the Benelli Lupo in 3006 with the timber stock. Now, I know you've got the synthetic stock. It's nowhere near as beautiful as that.
Yeah, but at least I've got the kahunas to take it out in the rain, you bloody jackass.
So yes, that is
Mine
very,
gets
very
to go
true.
hunting.
This one is I'm a little bit protective of. So it is a beautiful rifle, and yes, on Operation Venison, we had a lot of rain on that first night, and it was still raining and foggy on the second morning, and I refused to take the Lupo out because I didn't want to get it dirty and messed up in the wet.
Unbelievable.
It is truly beautiful rifle. You've got to look at it. It's got their proprietary best coating there, which is better than the Cerakoting, guaranteed not to rust. I think, what has it got? A 20-year warranty on it?
Oh, more.
Yeah, that's
rust.
the super Cerakote stuff they use or whatever. It's not Cerakote, it's some kind of super duper.
It's their own. It's a proprietary best. But what I love about this is the it's modular, so you can actually adjust the drop of the comb over here. This is fully adjustable. You can adjust the length of pull. So it actually comes with adjusters and spacers that you can adjust it. So I think it's got 150 different. Don't quote me on that number, but I think it's got about 150 different points of adjustment that you can actually make to it. So you can adjust it perfectly for you. So you buy a rifle, and sometimes you go to a gun shop and you shoulder it and it doesn't fit properly. This one, you just adjust it. It's got the dropout mag that we've been talking about, and I think when you take the mag out and you look at it, it looks like it's got this massive big shocks tooth top mouth. It's just coming. It's just the steel work on it. It's just. So for me, I'm in love with this rifle. It's ultra modern, very different. It's not something I thought I would ever be keen on, but absolutely love this rifle. I've got the Burris Signature HD 3-15x44 on top, and it's just a beautiful rifle. So accurate. 3006, this caliber, a caliber I said I would never own. I'm now a complete convert. But yes, I am very protective of this one, and it doesn't go out in the rain. It doesn't go out in the wet. But this is going to be my Red Stag rifle for next year, I think. Bit heavy.
So you just dropped out a sec there. It's going to be your what?
Red Stag in the raw. I'm going to carry
You
this
were
one.
taking the 9.3. Changed your mind already.
Changed my mind already. Now that I've got her out the safe, it's going to be her.
So this one, while we're at it, it's the same rifle as their synthetic version. Again, I like plastic things over the timber. I'm not a traditionalist like these two. I like to take mine out in the weather. I like to take it out in the snow and the shit and the muck. And I like to put it on the back of the ute and do what it needs to do. The stock on this is something quite nice. Like it's different to the plastic stocks of the other rifles that I've shown you tonight. It's still really well crafted or molded, I should say. It just feels nice. I had when we were out on the Operation Venison and Adam was with us. He picked it up. He said, "Oh man, that feels good." Like it just you can see the hollows in the forestock here. It just fits so nicely. So it's just really well made. And for me, it's enthusiast as well. But I've got the Eliminator 5 on it, which has been a fantastic piece of gear. Still getting used to it, to be honest. But really easy to set up and just gives you that confidence right out to distance to be able to take some longer range shots. So looking forward to putting it through its paces a little bit more. But that's my last rifle for the night, by the way. Nothing more really to say about it other than, we talked about the best coating. The one thing I noticed about this rifle when I first got it was how smooth the action was.
The action is...
that best coating runs all the way in. I think. Yeah, it does. And I could barely feel it pick the round up off the magazine, off the top of the box. It was so smooth. So it's quiet. Yeah, it's a beautiful rifle. Priced as
I think for what it is, it's actually really well priced.
Yeah, they're not a cheap rifle. They are the Ferrari, but yeah, love it.
What have you got, Mark? Last one.
So I've got a BRX one Beretta, but this is the Minecraft Madness version. So I got a call from Scott at Beretta and said, "We want you to do another custom rifle for us." I said, "Sure." I said, "But he said this time it's got to be a BRX and it's got to have an aim point." And I tried to actually not put an aim point on it, and he rejected it. So he said, "No, it's got to have aim point." So I said, "Okay." And so the first design I did, he said, "It's too boring." So we said, "Okay, sure." So we came up, and since my boys at the time were into Minecraft, it kind of inspired so we did like a digi pattern, but it's kind of very Minecrafty. So a olive Cerakote on the barrel and action, and then you've got this two-tone here, which is this kind of sand, because we didn't want the barrel and action to be a big block of colour, so that's why it's broken up. It's also got the a bit of blaze there from the magazine, and then the stock has both the lighter colour and the darker colour in it. It's in left-hand configuration as opposed to Ian's, and it also is a 308. So this runs the same.
Cover that off, Mark, about the left-hand configuration.
So
I didn't talk about that. Yeah.
The one of the benefits of the modularization of rifles over the last, say, 15, 20 years, and we've been talking about Tikkas, and they really kind of ran with it, where if you notice about Tikkas, all the bolts are basically the same. It's just the bolt faces are different. That's so, they can make things, basically, they can mass produce things. The BRX, while it's a wholly different rifle in design, it's a straight pull. The actual bolt assembly, which moves as the whole assembly, is ambidextrous. So you can pretty easily, it's like minutes, make this a right-hand rifle or a left-hand rifle. You simply are really just changing over the bolt handle to whatever size you want. That's it. So it's not a left-hand or right-hand rifle. It's actually a whatever you want it to be rifle. And so
it's even made in such a way that you can do that in the field with the tip of a bullet. You don't need a special tool.
That's
the
right.
tip of your bullet pushes the lug in, pull that bolt handle off, switch it over, you're done.
So yeah, so you could technically pass it around to people, and if they're left-handed or right-handed, you can move it around.
Mm.
So, and once you get the switch barrels in, you know, you kind of just go, oh, well, you carried a 9.3 today, and I'll carry this one, and you know, whatever you want to do.
I'm hunting pigs in the morning. I'll go 308
right.
in the afternoon.
Or if
9.3.
you go out as a group and you go, okay, well, today you're on buff, you got the 9.3. I'll take the pigs with the 308 or the 3006, and you back me up, and you back, and vice versa. So you can just say, okay, you're buff today, and so you take the buff rifle or the buff caliber, and the other person takes the pig caliber. And if we get pigs, you get into them.
I'm looking forward to understanding the reality of swapping the caliber, because if it's as easy as a couple of twists and turns, and you've switched it over. Would you carry your 9.3 in your pack? You know, you see a mob of buffalo up in front of you, you do a bit of a stop and swap. I mean, I know in reality it didn't work that way because everything was so fast in terms of action up there, but that doesn't always have to be that way.
I think more you would say, okay, today I'm going to ...
Agreed.
So
do you think you would ever then have the lighter caliber in the territory? Why would you?
In the territory, I would just carry the lighter territory, just so you would say, okay, I'm because I mean, obviously you can shoot pigs with a 9.3 and you can shoot donkeys with 9.3, but if you have the option to, you could have it so in the morning or whatever it is. Today's my buff day, so I'm going to set it up as my buff rifle. And other times we're going to set it up as the non-buff rifle. I mean, you will still shoot a buff with a 308, but I mean, you just lead off with the caliber you want for the day. It's kind of like taking two rifles.
What do you think about point of impact then?
Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
It's going to be interesting.
There's so many things that I'm looking forward to trialing it.
So, but then that's really just a question of optics. You would go, okay, you might have the optics set, and because there's a pick rail, you might have the optics set up for that caliber. So this runs
true. You put your
other
endpoint on the third.
Yeah, you just go, okay, I've got I'm going to put the 9.3 optics with the 9.3 barrel and the 9.3 magazine. I'm assuming the magazine will be a different plate because it's got obviously. I'm not sure how that'll work. It'd be interesting to see how it all works, but I'm assuming that's what you do. You just change barrel optics.
Exciting possibilities.
It is, yeah, because in a way, they're the things that are secondary to the rifle fitting you and you being comfortable with it. That's the hard thing. That picking up a different rifle is often it's a different length of pull or a slightly different grip or something like that. So it feels different in your hand. You don't feel the barrel, you don't feel the action, as it were. You certainly don't feel the caliber until it lets go. But so the rifle, you could be quite comfortable with that rifle, and then you're simply just shooting a different caliber out of it.
Yeah, swap the barrel, swap the bolt, swap the optics, put a big piece of rubber on the back of it for the 9.3, and you're away.
I actually find the 9.3 is...
I don't think it kicks very hard.
Nothing. It's nothing. In fact, Peter Ryan said years ago to me when I was talking about it, he said 9.3 is just a 375 after a couple of rums, just a bit more relaxed.
It's funny because a lot of people get punchy when they drink rum.
Well, that's after a couple of rums, he said. After, when you get the fair way down, just more relaxed. It's that stage where you're more relaxed.
Just you that feels that, Ian.
It'll be all right, mate. I'll harden up. I'll learn from you, fella.
So
one day you'll get them.
I've actually just got a video out about shooting this. So this is set up for a 100-yard gun, or at the moment. So this will be my pillar gun. This is the goat and pig buster.
Goats and pigs.
That's
be awesome for the pillar gun.
That's it. This is just a goat set up to 100 with the aim point. I've got it tuned very nicely for 100. Scott was telling me there's a new aim point though out that you can dial out to 800. So it's a military one. So, but same idea. So, but what it is it's got a index turret, like say, like loophole where you can send them. You can say, here's my ammo and stuff like that, and they create the custom turret for you.
The diopter, whatever it's called. Yeah.
The turret. So turret, they set it out. So the clicks and stuff like that. Well, there's a turret that you can get for that particular aim point that it's a custom turret out to 800. So you just kind of go tick, 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 dial it out.
With no magnification, that'll be interesting.
No magnification. So, it's a military thing. So it's like, just red dot on.
Trying to shoot the side of a tank.
Well, red dot on bad person. Bang.
How do you see the person at 800?
At 800 meters, naked eye.
Yeah. What's his name?
For effect.
That's right. Well, we used to shoot out to 1,000 with in what was called full bore with a aperture sight. But
I've done Bisley out to 800 yards.
The National Gun, whoever they are,
QRA in Queensland.
QRA in Warwick has got an 800 meter range.
Yeah, I used to shoot what they call full bore competition, which was once upon a time 303s, but came 308s.
Yeah,
and you use aperture sights, and you shoot out to 1,000, and then there's another range out to 1,400.
Yeah, I've done that at Bisley.
Yeah, but you say once upon a time that's how everyone used to shoot. We all just got too soft that we want a couple telescopes on top. But so this is this is the Minecraft madness. It's a bit of it's a tack driver, that's for sure. But I mean, it should be. It's a really nice rifle, and it's in a good caliber. So it's just about getting the optics right. And as I said, I've got this set up for 100 yards, shooting pigs and goats.
Those aim points are incredible.
And in the video we dropped a couple of days ago, I'm actually not using one of the things. So I had some feedback, and it was that if I had used the aim point paper, I would have been on time. I would have been on quicker, because it has the right the right sizings. But I just use a standard target.
The thing I noticed about these infrared thermals is they have a freeze frame option. So you put your target out in front of you, you set your rifle up, you shoot, and it's like left and up, right? You freeze frame, and you just go and dial. You just like that, and then you're done. Piece of cake.
Yeah. So do they actually pick up the shot, the thermal?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to film that at the range, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I was trying to film when I was reviewing the Zeiss. I was trying to film if I could get the difference in heat signature when the project, hit the paper.
So the way to do it is to laminate your target. So it's going. So retain some kind of heat. That's a good idea as well, but it disappears in front of your eye. You can see it disappear. With the thermal scopes, they come with a little heat pad squares. So you just shake them up and you put them on the target, and then when you go back, all you see is the heat blob, and you shoot at the heat blob. But when you shoot, it hits the target here, and then you hit the freeze frame button, and then you just dial and adjust, and then you just dial and adjust, and it brings it back perfectly to where you were.
There you go.
It's a very smart way to do it. Because it's electronic, it can freeze your frame, it can freeze your shot, and you just adjust it. Yeah, quite cool. So
they're the three rifles from me, all 30 cals. I as I said, I do intend to own another 22 soon. It's on its way. I did have a 223. I sold it. It was a really nice 223. I just didn't use it that often. So that's it.
gets like that for sure.
Mm.
All right. Well, hopefully that's helped a little bit. It's just horses for courses, various different rifles for different situations. I know it's interesting when you start this out. You think, oh, I'll get a rifle, and then it's like, oh, I need another one, and I need another one, and I need another one. And do you need another one? Well, probably not. But
Need one.
it sort of comes down to you can have three of the same caliber set up in completely different ways for different functions. So it's sort of a question about why not. If you're funded to do it, it's something you can and should do. Mucking around with the optics that are on your rifle once they're all zeroed in and perfect for what you're doing is a real shame. Like I don't like doing it. Once everything's perfectly dialed in at the range,
I do not like changing it.
really, really don't like swapping things around just for the sake of it.
Even bullets, even rounds, don't like changing it.
No.
Wow.
It's a piece of
Jesus,
machinery.
no, I'm always, man. I think that,
Customizing.
well, I think the 3006 has had 5 scopes on it.
Mm.
Yeah, started life with a Lupo VX3, and that was the old VX3. That was Roman numeral 3's
I remember that one.
VX3. Then I went to a VX3 1.25 to 5. That their little dangerous game one, the famous dangerous game one. Then I went to another Lupo. I went to that VX5 that I broke.
Broke? Yeah, I remember that.
And there was a Swaro was in there somewhere as well. Swaro. I think I went from the Lupo dangerous game to the Swaro dangerous game, and then I bought the Lupo that I broke, and now I'm running the Steiner on it. So close out. No, I keep changing all the time.
Once I find something that works, I keep it. I like
when you break it, you got to fix it. It's nothing. Yeah. It's just the way it goes. One last thing before we wrap up, made a couple of changes to the website. We've now got our pre-blooded gear page up, which is gear that we've used. It's in good condition that we don't have a use for anymore. So it's up on that page if you want to go and have a look at it. We'll keep populating that up with some bits and pieces that we've got. You'll find anything from knives to Hennessy hammocks to packs to all sorts of different things that we've trialed and need to move on. So if you're looking for a bargain, go over there and have a look. Shoot us a message. You might even get a deal out of us. So
yeah,
that's that.
And in terms of used gear, some of my stuff's not even used. It just went, man.
Yeah. Well, the pack that I've chucked up there has had one use as a transit bag. It didn't even get used as a pack. So not really. It's pretty much brand new. But anyway, that was out on the website.
Okay. Cool.
Anything else, fellas? So we're good? We're done?
No, I think it's a cracker.
I think we're good. We're done.
All right. Good stuff. Thanks, fellas. Chat to you soon.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.